It was a Saturday afternoon in late September. Golden light spilled through the blinds, showing every speck of dust I hadn't bothered to wipe down. I'd just asked Mara if she wanted to come with me to a lake party. Cheap hot dogs, glitchy speakers, coworkers pretending they'd keep in touch. She didn't even glance up from her phone. "Go alone," she said. Each word landed sharp, cold. "I don't really care." I laughed, because that's what I do when something cuts too deep. I pretend it's funny. "Not alone," I told her, forcing a grin. "Your best friend's coming with me." At first, she thought I was bluffing. Her eyebrow lifted just enough, her thumb froze mid-scroll. I know her tells. Mara's fake indifference always comes with that half-smile, like she's holding a coin under her tongue. Used to drive me wild. Now it just made me feel locked out of my own marriage. So I held her stare. Then I pulled out my phone. Sent the text I'd drafted but never dared to send. "Still on for the lake?" 5:30 pickup. 10 seconds later. "Yep. I'll be ready." Smiley face. Lena. Mara's best friend. The one with the laugh that turned heads. The one who remembered waiters' names, who once cried with me over shelter kittens with tragic bios. She'd become this flickering lighthouse in my fogged-up marriage. Steady, warm, too easy to lean toward. Mara set her phone down with a sharp clink. Her smile was gone. "You're not serious?" I asked. I shrugged, gesturing between us like the air could back me up. "You said you don't care." "She's not going with you." "She just said she was." "Then she won't." Mara stood, her voice stripped of warmth. "Because I'll tell her not to." That's when the math hit me. For weeks she'd brushed off invitations, left her coat on indoors, offered nothing but, "I'm tired," or "Can we not?" Her phone stayed face down, her laughter belonged somewhere else. And whenever I asked if we were okay, she'd hand me that sterile word, "Fine." My thumb hovered over Lena's name. In our old group chat, the three of trouble, Mara's typing bubble blinked on and off, like a warning light. Then I heard it. A car horn outside, two bright little chirps. I looked out the window, and there she was, Lena. Denim jacket, sunglasses in her hair, leaning against a borrowed Subaru like she'd just stepped out of a movie. She waved. My chest did a clumsy somersault I hadn't felt in months. Mara's face shifted like storm clouds. Her hands balled, then fell open. "You actually invited her?" Her voice was smaller than I'd ever heard. "You said that I didn't care." Her jaw clenched. Then softer. "I didn't think you'd call it." "I'm just going to a party," I muttered. But the words didn't sound like the truth. Mara moved to the window, lifted the blind with 2 fingers. She watched Lena scroll her phone, stretch in the sunlight. "She came," Mara whispered, like it was a sin just to say it. And that's when everything started to spiral fast. When Lena slid into the passenger seat, it felt like the whole neighborhood was leaning out their windows to watch. She smelled like vanilla lotion, with that faint trace of cigarette smoke she never admitted to but could never quite hide. And then came the grin, half excitement, half dare, like she knew she was stepping straight into a minefield, and she wanted front row seats when it exploded. "You ready?" she asked, buckling in like we were about to rob a bank. "More than ready." I lied. My gut was doing backflips. Behind us, I knew Mara was at the window. I could picture her arms folded, her jaw tight, that fake indifference she wore like armor starting to crack. I didn't look. If I did, I might enjoy it too much, the sting she'd been handing me for months, finally coming back around. The drive to the lake felt longer than it was. Lena filled the car with chatter. A bad date who wouldn't stop texting, a barista ranting about oat milk conspiracies. She was trying to keep it light, but every so often she snuck a glance at me, like she was studying a puzzle she wasn't sure she wanted to solve. At a red light, she finally asked it. "You sure about this?" "Sure about what?" "Dragging me into whatever mess is between you and Mara." My hands clenched the wheel. She told me to go alone. I just didn't feel like being alone. Lena studied me, then let out a breath. "Fair enough. But you know she's gonna flip, right?" "I'm counting on it." By the time we pulled up, music was bouncing across the lake. Laughter carried over the water, the smell of charcoal and burned hot dogs hanging heavy in the cool evening air. I parked near the dock, killed the engine. Before I could open my door, Lena touched my arm. "Hey," she said softly. "Don't use me just to make her jealous, okay?" Her eyes were steady. No grin, no jokes, just the kind of look that pinned you in place. "It's not like that," I said quickly. "Then what is it like?" I didn't answer. Not because I couldn't, but because the truth would sound too much like a confession. Inside, people greeted us like we'd come as a set. You two look good together. Someone laughed, shoving beers into our hands. Lena brushed it off, but she leaned closer as we moved through the crowd. Her shoulder grazed mine, light, deliberate. It felt like a choice. Then my phone buzzed. One message. Mara asterisk asterisk really? With her? Asterisk. I showed Lena. She raised an eyebrow. Guess she cares after all. I smirked, but my chest tightened. That wasn't indifference anymore. It was pain bleeding through her mask. And I was the one holding the knife. The rest blurred. Music, conversations, beer. My phone stayed silent, but Mara's absence pressed heavier than her words. For the first time in months, I felt something shift. Maybe it was power, or maybe just the illusion of it. Later, Lena and I sat on the dock, feet swinging above the black water. The moon scattered our reflections into broken shards. She nudged me. So, she asked quietly, what happens now? I stared at the ripples. Now? Now it gets messy. Because Mara wasn't the kind of woman to lose. And I just taught her she could. The fallout hit harder and faster than I ever imagined. When Lena and I pulled into the driveway that night, Mara's car was already there, parked sideways like she'd slammed the brakes too late. The porch light blazed, spotlighting the trap I'd walked into. My chest lurched, equal parts dread and adrenaline. She's here, Lena muttered, tugging at her jacket sleeve. Want me to bail? No, I said, sharper than I meant to. Stay. Why? I couldn't explain it. Maybe I wanted Mara to see us together, no excuses. Maybe I wanted to rip the mask off her indifference and force something real. Or maybe I just didn't want to step into her storm alone. The front door creaked shut behind us, and there she was. Mara stood in the living room, arms folded, hair knotted up like she didn't care about appearances anymore. But her eyes, burning, restless, told the truth. Really? Her voice cracked like glass. You actually brought her here? I kept my tone even, though my pulse hammered. You told me to go alone. I didn't. That's not the same, and you know it. Her glare snapped to Lena, sharp as a blade. What are you even doing here? Lena didn't flinch. Keeping him company. Since you said you didn't care. The silence that followed throbbed with danger. Mara's jaw clenched. Her fingers twitched though she tried to stay still. I knew that look. It was the look of someone losing ground but refusing to admit it. You're pathetic. She finally spat at me. Dragging my best friend into this? You think this makes you look strong? I stepped closer, slow, steady. No. It proves indifference isn't the same as not caring. And maybe you're not as detached as you pretend. Her face flushed. She opened her mouth, shut it, then stormed into the kitchen. A cabinet slammed so loud it rattled the air. Lena leaned in, whispering, I should go. Not yet, I murmured. She needs to see it. When Mara reappeared, she held a glass of water, her hands trembling enough to send ripples across the surface. She didn't drink, just stared at me, like she was seeing a stranger, a man who no longer begged, no longer bent. You're really doing this? She asked, her voice shaky, almost breaking. You started this, I said. You wanted distance. You acted like nothing I did mattered. So I stopped trying. And now you hate the result. For a second, her eyes softened. The fight drained from her face. But then she turned toward Lena, and the softness sharpened into a blade. You think she's better than me? You think she'll tolerate you the way I did? Lena stood, steady as stone. This isn't about me, Mara. It's about you pushing him away, and then being furious when someone else stood in the space you left empty. That hit her. I saw it. The flicker of fear, jealousy, desperation wrestling across her face. For months she'd been ice, untouchable. Now she was fire, burning in every direction. And standing there, I realized something that turned my stomach cold. This wasn't a fight that would fade. This was the start of a war. The walls felt like they were closing in. Mara pacing like a caged animal, Lena frozen near the couch, and me stuck in the middle, pretending I was some kind of referee in a fight I never agreed to host. Every glance, every breath, felt like it could spark the explosion that would burn the house down. You think this is funny? Mara snapped, her voice so tight it almost cracked. Humiliating me in my own house. I forced my tone calm. No one's trying to humiliate you. Her laugh was sharp, hollow. Really? Then what do you call parading my best friend around like a trophy? Lena shifted but didn't retreat. I asked him the same thing before I came. She said, steady. You told him you didn't care, Mara. And let's be honest, you've been acting like you don't for months. Mara's head snapped toward her, eyes blazing. Don't you dare stand there and act like you know what goes on between us. I've known you for 10 years, Lena fired back. I know when you're checked out. And I know when you're punishing him instead of talking to him. That's exactly what you've been doing. The words landed like a hammer, heavier than anything I could have said. And worse, it was the truth. Mara's mouth opened, closed. She turned on me, her face torn between fury and something dangerously close to fear. So what? What? You've been running to her, telling her about us, making her your little confidant? No, I said, firm enough to stop her mid-breath. But maybe I should have. At least she listens. Something inside her cracked. Her shoulders sagged for half a second before she pulled the armor back on. You're both pathetic, she spat, but the venom was fading. I almost let myself believe it was over. But I knew Mara better than that. She didn't quit fights. If she couldn't win with cold indifference, she'd scorch the earth instead. She stormed across the room, snatched her bag, and threw it over her shoulder. Fine. If this is what you want, if you're that desperate for her, go for it. But don't come crawling back when she gets bored. Mara, I started, but she was already at the door. Her hand froze on the knob. When she spoke, her voice shook, but not from weakness. From promise. You think I'm jealous? You haven't seen jealous yet. The slam of the door rattled every frame on the wall. For a moment, the only sound was Lena's uneven breathing. She sank onto the couch, palms flat on her thighs. Well, she said, voice unsteady. That went about as bad as it could have. I lowered into the chair across from her, rubbing at my temples. No, that was just the beginning. Because Mara wasn't bluffing. I knew her too well. And the terrifying part? Some reckless, buried piece of me was almost curious. Curious about what her jealousy would look like when it finally broke loose. The buzzing dragged me out of sleep before the sun was even up. My phone lit the room like a strobe, 10 missed calls. All from Mara. No texts. No voicemails. Just unanswered rings, one after another, like she was pounding her fists on the walls of my silence. I didn't call back. I just sat on the edge of the bed, rubbing the grit from my eyes, staring at her name on the screen. Mara never begged. If she was chasing this hard, it wasn't about love, it was about control. By noon, I understood exactly what she meant when she hissed. You haven't seen jealous yet. My boss called me into his office. His jaw was tight, voice low. Hey, I don't know what's going on at home, but keep it there. We don't need drama spilling into the office. Drama? I frowned. What are you talking about? He slid his phone across the desk. My stomach dropped. On the screen was a Facebook post Mara had written. Long, venomous, public. She painted herself as the abandoned wife, humiliated by her cheating husband and her best friend. And to drive it home, she'd attached an old picture of Lena and me at a barbecue, beer in hand, laughing, looking closer than we ever really were. The comments section was a frenzy. Friends calling me trash, strangers piling on. Mara had written the story, cast herself as the victim, and shoved me into the role of the villain before I even had a chance to speak. I clenched my jaw. Heat crawled up my neck. This wasn't heartbreak. This was theater, and she wanted an audience. That night, Lena showed up at my door. Her face was pale, her expression hard. She came to my work. She blurted before I could even say hello. My gut tightened. What do you mean? She came to your work. She cornered me in the parking lot. Lena's voice shook, but she stood tall. Called me pathetic. Said I was just your distraction. Said I'd always be the sidekick, never the leading lady. I swore under my breath. She told me to back off, Lena added. Or she'd make things ugly. She was right to be worried. When Mara felt threatened, she didn't fight fair. She fought to annihilate. Later, scrolling through Mara's profile, I saw it. Her newest status update. Funny how some people think they can replace a wife with a knockoff version. Good luck with that. Winky face. My phone buzzed again. A text from Lena. She's baiting you. Don't give her what she wants. But the pit in my stomach told me this was more than bait. Mara wasn't satisfied with online shade or whispered threats in a parking lot. No, those were just opening moves. And when Mara set her sights on revenge, she didn't stop until she broke something. The question that kept me awake long into the night was terrifyingly simple. What, or who, was she planning to break first? By Friday, Mara had shifted gears, from messy, angry posts to something colder, sharper. Sabotage. I should have seen it coming. Jealousy made her reckless, but revenge? Revenge made her careful. I pulled into the driveway and froze. My sister was waiting on the porch, arms folded, her face tight with fury. You want to explain why Mara just called me crying? She demanded before I even touched the door. My gut sank. What did she tell you? That you've been cheating with her best friend for months. That you humiliated her, dragged Lena around town to rub it in, and now you're trying to gaslight her into looking crazy. My sister's glare could have drilled holes in concrete. So, is it true? I clenched my jaw until my teeth ached. No, she's twisting everything. She told me to go alone. I didn't. That's it. Then why does she sound like her whole life is falling apart? Because it is, I snapped, heat rising in my chest. And she's the one swinging the hammer. For a second, her expression wavered. But then she shook her head, muttering, God, you too are a disaster. Before storming off the porch. I barely had time to exhale before my phone buzzed. A new text lit up the screen. Lena, she showed up at my apartment. Again. Said if I don't back off, she'll tell everyone I've been chasing you for years. She's unhinged, Nate. I drove straight over. Lena was curled on the couch, clutching a pillow, her face pale. She's not going to stop, she whispered. I can't fight her. She knows everything, every secret, every mistake. She'll use it all. And it hit me like a punch. Mara wasn't just lashing out. She was rewriting the script, casting herself as the victim, painting me as the cheater, Lena as the traitor. Not just to get me back, but to salt the earth so no one else would ever stand with me. The very next day, I found out how far she'd already taken it. At the grocery store, people stared, whispered. One guy I barely knew clapped me on the shoulder with a pitying smile. Rough patch, huh? Don't worry, man. People forgive. Forgive what? Back in the parking lot, I pulled out my phone. My stomach turned to stone. Mara had posted a picture, me and Lena at the lake party. Standing close, laughing, captured at the worst possible angle. The caption? Sometimes betrayal looks just like friendship. Lesson learned. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. Friends rallying to her side. Strangers cursing my name. And right at the top, pinned by Mara herself, was her reply. It's okay. He'll come back. They always do. My pulse hammered. She wasn't just trashing my name. She was daring me to take the bait. To snap. To prove her right. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at the ceiling, the glow of my phone burning like an accusation on the nightstand. Mara wanted war. And for the first time, I realized I couldn't just defend myself anymore. I had to strike back. The only question was, what kind of man would I have to become to beat her at her own game? Mara didn't waste a second. By Monday morning, she'd shifted from bitter wife to calculating predator, and her first strike landed hard. Lena called me at work, her voice shaking. She just tagged me in a post, she whispered. You need to see it. I opened Facebook. My stomach knotted. Mara had posted a screenshot of a months-old text between Lena and me. Nothing scandalous, just me thanking her for listening after one of Mara's meltdowns. But Mara's caption twisted it into poison. When you trust the wrong people, they stab you twice. Once in the back, once in the heart. Lena was crucified in the comments. Snake. Homewrecker. Trash. Friends were dropping her in real time. It wasn't just my name Mara was dragging through the mud. She was burning Lena alive, and she wanted me to watch every second of it. She had to dig for that message, Lena said, her voice cracking. She went through my phone. Last week, while I was in the shower. That's the only way she could have gotten it. Rage throbbed in my skull. She crossed a line. Lena's whisper tightened. She told me if I don't disappear, she'll leak more. Stuff I trusted her with. Stuff that could ruin me. That's when it hit me. Mara wasn't just trying to punish me. She was cutting me off, one person at a time, until the only option left standing beside me was her. That night, I walked into the kitchen to find her waiting. Glass of wine in hand. Smug smile carved into her face. Rough day? She asked sweetly, her voice dripping poison. I didn't answer. I just stared. She tilted her glass. See, Nate, you can play these little games. Bring Lena to parties. Let her ride in your car. Pretend you're replacing me. But you won't. Because she doesn't know you like I do. She doesn't know how to survive me. Her words slid through the room like a blade. You think destroying her makes you win? I asked, my voice low, steady. Mara leaned back, eyes glittering. I'm not destroying her. I'm reminding her where she belongs. And reminding you who owns this story. Not you. Not her. Me. It clicked in that moment. This wasn't jealousy. It wasn't heartbreak. It was a war for control. And I was the prize she intended to chain to the victor's side. Later that night, my phone buzzed. A new text from Lena. She won't stop until you make her stop. Either you take control, or she burns us both to the ground. I stared at the message for a long time. My pulse pounded, my thumb hovering. Then I typed one word back. Tomorrow. Because Mara thought she was the author. Thought I'd keep reacting, keep defending, keep dancing in her script. But tomorrow, I wasn't playing her character anymore. Tomorrow, I was going to flip the whole story and make sure she never saw the ending coming. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the living room with a notebook, my phone, and every shred of patience I had left. Mara thought she was untouchable because she got loud first. But loud isn't the same as smart. And for months, while she spun lies and played the victim, I'd been quietly collecting the truth. Receipts, screenshots, bank statements, GPS logs, all the little cracks she thought I wouldn't notice. By morning, I had everything lined up like dominoes. All I had to do was tip the first one. I started small. A group text to both Mara and Lena. Just one screenshot. An Uber receipt from 2 weeks ago. Pick up, Mara's office. Drop off, Ryan's apartment complex. Timestamp, 11:37 p.m. No caption. No explanation. Just the raw, ugly truth. 3 minutes later, Mara blew up my phone. Delete that now. You don't know what you're doing. Oh, but I did. At noon, I forwarded the same screenshot, along with a few others, including a hotel bill and some very flirty emails, to Mara's parents, her brother, and 3 of her closest friends. No commentary, just the evidence. By 12:15, her mom was calling me, her voice shaking. Is this real? Yes, I said flatly. Ask your daughter. By 1 o'clock, the ripple effect was everywhere. Mara's carefully curated Facebook sympathy posts were being flooded with comments. Care to explain this, Mara? And so who's the real cheater here? I could almost feel her panic from across town. But I wasn't done. At 6 p.m., I walked into Callahan's bar, the same place where she'd once accused me of humiliating her, and set a small envelope on the counter. Inside, printed copies of the emails between her and Ryan. The bartender, an old buddy of mine, raised an eyebrow. Pass it around, I said. Make sure people know who's been writing love letters on the company clock. By 9 o'clock, half the town had seen them. And Mara, who thrived on reputation and appearances, couldn't control the wildfire anymore. When I finally came home, she was waiting. Red-eyed, mascara-streaked, pacing the kitchen like a caged animal. How could you do this to me? She choked out, her voice ragged. I set my keys down slowly. You wanted revenge. You wanted control. Now you know what it feels like to lose both. She shook her head violently. You've ruined me. My job, my family, my friends, everything. No, Mara. I cut in, my voice calm, steady. You ruined yourself. All I did was show everyone the truth you tried so hard to bury. Her face crumpled then, not with rage this time, but with something I hadn't seen in months. Shame. Real, gut-deep shame. For a long moment, she just stood there, her hands trembling, her breath shallow. Then she whispered, I thought I could break you. I stepped closer, meeting her eyes. You did. But you forgot one thing. Broken men don't stay broken. They build. And you just taught me how to build without you. She sank into a chair, covering her face, sobs racking her body. For once, it wasn't a performance. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cold. She was just defeated. And standing there, watching her finally crumble under the weight of her own games, I realized my revenge was complete. Not because I'd hurt her, but because I'd stripped away the mask she thought she could hide behind forever. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. It wasn't about Lena, or parties, or who looked stronger in the end. It was about truth. And the truth had left Mara with nothing but herself.